What's up, good people? We're back for another one. Super excited about this one. We're doing a bar swap on the 22 Street Pub 114 we have over here. I've got all these parts by OG Moto. Let's start with the risers. This is an 8.5 inch riser with kickback. The one with the orange top clamp with the gauge for the digital gauge. One part that was necessary was the gauge extension. And got some polyurethane bushings to stiffen the bars themselves, and a new set of bolts as well. Bars by Moto. Feels really good. So let's get started. We'll take the Memphis shades windshield off the bike and start breaking it down. First off, let me apologize. My microphone died and I didn't notice at the time. First off, it's always a good idea to cover your gas tank before you work on your front end doing anything, because parts can fall and scratch your paint and stuff like that. So you want to try to avoid that as much as possible. Here, I'm going to remove the hand controls first from the bars, and then the handlebar clamp, followed by the risers. It's not necessary to remove the headlight, but be careful when you're removing the risers, as any slip and you can damage your headlight housing as well. The case with my motorcycle, because I had the Memphis shades windshield installed, I have that extended headlight block, which allowed me to just push the front of the headlight down a little to give myself enough room to get to the riser bolts. Another quick note is, as you remove the hand controls, it's probably a good idea to suspend the master cylinder side up by some sort of string or something that keeps the pressure off the brake line. You'll also have to remove the turning signals from the control housing, as those wires are fed through the control housing into the bars itself. Now here I am removing the riser gauge plate. It's just 4 hex bolts, come right out. You unplug the gauge wire from the bottom, and you simply put it off to the side. Now you can start working on the risers themselves. It's just 2 bolts on the bottom. They come right off. Pretty straightforward. When you get to the bushings, there is metal covers on each end. You'll have to use a little screwdriver or something, carefully take those off and just peel off the rubber and the sleeves. You will be reusing the sleeves if you're swapping out your bushings as recommended. Now it's off to the side to access the harness where all those wires are plugged in. So it's just a little rubber seal that you pry off, and you can see the connectors where they're plugged in on both sides. Really good idea to take a picture of everything while it's plugged in for reference, as you see I do here, as the wires on both sides do look similar for many of the things like turning signals and stuff. So you want to know where all the stuff plugs in. It just makes it easier later on. Moving to the risers and urethane bushings, you can see how stiff the polyurethane bushings are compared to the stock bushings. You're going to want to take that metal sleeve, and what I did was just put some lubricant in to try to help slide it through the polyurethane bushings, because it is a real tight fit. Ultimately, I ended up using a C-clamp to press the sleeve into both bushings so that it was nice and secure. Once the bushings were pressed into place, you see me grab the new risers and the new riser bolts. Make sure you use Loctite. For now, I'm just screwing these in for mock-up and fitment. Pinning and depinning, everybody's favorite thing to do. Like I said before, I did not have to depin these connectors to remove them from the stock handlebars, but I did have to in order to feed them into my Fly Moto handlebars. So it was a task, and I actually bought these. You can buy these keys on Amazon, all different sizes and stuff. Supposedly meant for this very thing, to pop these pins out of these connectors. However, I have found that the best thing to use is a simple safety pin. Now, I'm not going to get into doing each pin because it does take a little finesse, and it can be definitely frustrating. But basically what you do is you take the pin and you want to go down at an angle the minute you go in, and you should feel very closely as you go in. There should be a little bit of resistance. Should be like almost like you hit a wall. Once you hit that, you want to peel it up just like that and pull on the back of the wire. And it'll take several times, but they do come out. Once you do one or two, you kind of get in the groove and kind of picks up from there. Putting them back is a little bit easier, but definitely recommend you take pictures of everything as you take it apart, so you know where all the wires go. Like in this instance, there's two sets of red, black, and white wires coming from the same sleeve, so definitely can be confusing. Definitely want to consult a picture or whatever wire diagram you make for yourself. So what I'm going to do is just take this last connector, verify where all these wires actually go, and you just want to make sure you have, it's almost impossible to see on camera, there's a smooth side and a side, it's got like a little edge to it on the metal, and once you find right side up, basically you're just sliding it in, and you will hear it click into place. If you hear it click into place, maybe a little light tug, you look in the front and you make sure you see that the front of the metal, up in that hole like it was when you took it out, and you should be good to go. So this is the hardest part by far of the whole thing. So should be pretty smooth sailing here, knock on wood. We'll put together this last connector, and then we'll go over to the gauge. We'll move the gauge over and mount the bars and tighten all this stuff up. All right, so I referenced my picture on my phone that I took of this last connector here. This one has the most wires, so I figured this would be a good one to show you guys. But you want to make sure your orientation of the clip itself when you took the picture is also in the right place. And we'll just get started. Say you got to find right side up. Slide it in. See if you guys can hear this. Really, really soft click. Really, really light. You can barely tell. have it. You slide your little rubber seal up, and that's it. Just double check and we're ready to mount. Okay, so moving on to the gauge. This is the front of the stock gauge housing. If you flip it over, you'll see 4 bolts in there. Take those 4 out and you just press it out. There is like a rubber gasket that goes around there. So you can see it can be, warped or moved off. So when you slide it into the new one, just make sure the gasket's fitting properly. The new housing does not have the bolt holes, just so you guys know. So I'm just assuming it doesn't need it. I don't see anything that says otherwise. So we're just gonna place that gently in there. Make sure the gasket doesn't get warped. And it's in there. So we'll put the bars up, we'll run the wires, and hook this up. Just wanted to give you guys a shot from here. These risers have holes. Slide your wires through. There is a pair of guides here. And you just pass the wires, and they come out for the center of the triple tree. Not all bars have their holes drilled the same. So if you have bars, if you choose bars that have the holes for the wires here, then it's going to be harder to take advantage of these guides. Anyway, we're going to pass these wires through. Okay, really quick. So, got the bars pretty much where I want them. Nothing's torqued down to spec just yet. I got the wires. If there's a good way to show you this. Through the channel that they have here, I ended up having to take the bottom of the 2 brackets. There's a bracket up here, and there's another one down here. I ended up having to take the bottom one off to get the connectors past where the channel stops. So I have that on both sides. I've also run the extension wire for the display on this side, since this side had less wires. So it's running in here, and right now it's not even connected yet. I still have to plug all the wires back in here. And you have two sides. You have one side, and then there's the connectors for the other side. So I have to plug all of these back in, and then just really just dial it in. I got to get the grip on this side, get this situated. I think this looks really beautiful. And the same thing with this side. So come together really good. I think it looks beautiful. Love the orange and the black. And this is coming out neat too. I will have the Memphis shade shield up too, so I'm not too worried about too much of this wiring stuff as far as tucking it all in. The only thing I see is this little wire up here, but you won't see that with the shield on. So let's plug it all in and keep going. All right, guys, so we got the T-bars on the bike, took it out. This is probably my third time taking it out. There's still a little bit of adjustments that I'm going to go back and do just to dial it in correctly. Like, for instance, the height of this whole piece here. One side's a little bit lower than the other. I like it even, so my wrist stays even here, and my fingers rest on the clutch or the brake. So little adjustments like that, mirrors, tiny things, but all in all, it looks great. I'm really happy with the way it turned out in the black and orange combo. I'm glad I went that route. It handles really good. The height is very similar to the stock bars. So I'll show you in a little bit here. I'm just going to hold up the stock bars to what you see here, so you can kind of see the difference in the angle, the width of the bars and things like that, if this is something you're considering doing. When you do the T-bars, always good to have a second set of hands. Just kind of makes things easier. There's a few parts where it would really help if you had another person, but you can certainly do it by yourself like I did. Any advice would be to just take your time, especially with the de-pinning process. Like I said earlier, I bought tools specifically to de-pin, and safety pins still worked better. So something to think about. But that's the hardest part. Everything else is just nuts and bolts. It went together pretty easy, not too many hiccups. Also, I think I said this already, but when you pick your bars, make sure that it doesn't have the exit hole dead center. Otherwise, you won't be able to really take advantage of the channels that OG Moto provides for the wires. So something to think about, but you can always braid them, similar to the other T-bars out there. But with this system, to take advantage of it, make sure that you have two separate holes on the outside for your wires to exit out of the bars itself. It feels really solid. Looks good. I know you can't really see too much of it with the Memphis Shades windshield on, so I can take that off and show you guys, for those of you guys who are not running a windshield, what it looks like. Yeah, I'm just real happy with it. Outside of the de-pinning, everything was really straightforward. I can't say enough good things about the product. So we're ready for the next one. We're going to keep these videos coming to you guys. If you like videos like this, please consider liking and subscribing. Helps the channel out. You guys know the routine. I'll take the windshield off, and then we'll take it for a spin. You can see it from the cockpit. Now, this may look a little different from yours if you're not running a Memphis Shades. Obviously, I have the headlight extension block, so it is pushed out a little further. But I think you get the idea here of what it would look like if you're not running a windshield at all, and that is your preference.
think it looks really good. Really showcases the risers and everything else like that. So if that's what you're doing, man, I would most certainly, advise you to go this route. Certainly some things I could have done. I could have cleaned these wires up down here a little better as they entered in there. But again, I'm running the Memphis Shades windshield, so it wasn't really, a big deal for me. But plan out, how you're going to attack this, and all in all, I think you guys can do it. If I can do it, you guys can definitely do it. So let's take this thing for a ride.